Hi, and welcome to our kitchen renovation project. This is how the kitchen looked when we bought the house. Things had degraded from use and time, the cabinet handles and joints were falling apart, the door wraps were flaking, and the countertop board had water damage. Overall, there wasn't much functional space and basically things were falling apart. I'm glad the contractors called in a disposal bin because there was a ton of construction garbage that had to be thrown away. Although I dabbled in a bit of DIY every now and then, this was too big of a project for me to do alone. So when we received a good quote from a contractor who was recommended by a friend, we decided to go for it. Before the demolition, we had to reinvent our makeshift kitchen that would help us survive 3 weeks of kitchen remodel that was to come. So we moved everything out and kept them in places where we could access them, rearrange furniture so they would be protected from dust. If you know your stuff, things seem seamless. The whole kitchen fell apart within half a day. I really thought we'd need 2 people to get this whole sink panel out, but the guy managed it quite well. Took it apart, folded it, and threw it in the disposal bin. Job done. Our kitchen floor was always somehow higher than the rest of the house. We found out that there are 2 layers of tiles on the floor, so everything had to be taken out, down to the base floor, which is essentially the treated wood that are on top of the floor joists. We found some water damage to a floorboard and a drywall, so they had to be replaced. There was dust everywhere. This is how the space looked after the cabinetry were removed. I thought this was the messiest part of the build. Boy, I was wrong. By this time, we managed to convince our contractors to take down the bulkhead. Although it was part of our initial agreement, they were trying to avoid that part of the work and move forward with the build. But we stood firm and finally it was off. Luckily, the bulkhead didn't have any vents running through it except a few wires. Onto the wire mesh and scratch coat before the new floorings go in. The scratch coat was done, dried overnight, and the drywalls were put back into place. They also drilled holes for the pot lights and wired it up, and I think it looked quite nice. Sure, there was a ton of work left to be done, and they still had to create a small bulkhead to keep a bit of ductwork concealed, but overall, this was progress. A day later, the cabinet guys came in, and although I wanted to do a time lapse of their work, there were too many interruptions, so just a few snapshots. We managed to have a bit of fun in the weekend. Alright, back to work. This is how the cabinets finally looked after several days of coming and installing bits and pieces. We took a few snapshots and were overjoyed by the kitchen finally coming together. This process really tested our nerves. Next, it was the quartz countertop guys, and it actually took them a little over 2 hours to get everything off their van, do minor adjustments, and install everything. The countertops they installed were actually the wrong design. They ran out of stock with the piece we selected and just picked our second choice. This was a big surprise and not a pleasant one, but overall it turned out okay. Our deep sink was also installed by the countertop guys. We found out later that our countertop scratches and stains easily, so I had to apply a special sealer after everything was done. And so far it's holding out quite well. From here on out, there was a 2-day sprint to finish the kitchen. This included installation of the baseboards, waterworks for the sink, installing the tap, putting in the fridge in place and hooking up its water line, bringing in the stove and the dishwasher. We decided to update the electrical outlets for a more modern style and included a few USB charging ports. The range hood had to be placed after the backsplash and grouting. Initially, we wanted a herringbone style backsplash, but this stone subway arrangement really caught our eye. And after emptying out the stock for 4 different Home Depot, it was finally complete. Everything was put together, and at this point, we were desperate to get our lives back on track and start using our new kitchen. All it needed was a ton of cleanup. Managing our kids' school, extracurricular class schedules, our work schedules, going through the flu, and all the while staying on top of everything that was going on with the build was a challenge, to say the least. I guess it's a necessary pain you have to go through for the birth of something worthwhile. I think overall, the build took a lot of effort both from the contractor's side and our own. But we finally managed to get an updated kitchen that hopefully we'll get to enjoy for a long while. Now we need to rearrange all our things back to the new functional kitchen. So here are a few before and after for comparison. Well, that's it for our kitchen reno project. Thanks for watching.